Let us pray. Almighty God, the creator and ruler of heaven and earth, we beseech thee to inspire and guide all our actions so that we may always walk in the path of justice, love, and charity to one another. Help us with thy grace to do only those things that will promote the unity, peace, happiness, and prosperity of Nigeria in general, and Lagos State in particular. Amen. Good afternoon, distinguished colleagues. You are all welcome to today's sitting. Let us go through the votes and proceedings of Thursday, 28th February 2020. Ojú ìwé kọkàndínláàádọ́rùn. Ojú ìwé àádọ́rùn. Ojú ìwé kọkànléláàádọ́rùn. I've examined the votes and proceedings of Thursday, 20th February 2020, and approval is here granted. Any message from the governor?
Right, Honorable Speaker, distinguished honorable members, there is no message from Mr. Governor.
Any other announcements?
Mr. Speaker, sir, there is no announcement.
Petitions?
None, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Matter of other public importance. Honorable Shokunle.
Good morning, Mr. Good morning, Mr. Speaker, fellow colleagues. This morning, I want to talk on COVID-19, since the Ministry of Health in Lagos State
Can you make use of the mic, please?
since the Ministry of Health in Lagos State confirmed its first case of COVID-19 in 27th of February 2020. Since its outbreaks in China, the virus mainly attacks the lungs through the respiratory system. Mr. Speaker, it is sad that we have to talk about this today, since it is possible not to even have it at all if we have put in place, if federal government have put in place all necessary measures that we need to put in place, like disinfection, proper checking of inflow of people into the country, or, if possible, outright banning of international flight from the affected countries. Before, personally, I thought it was DNA specific, but the hypothesis does not have basis anyway. Mr. Speaker, we need to commend the Lagos State government, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, as well as the House of Assembly, for our prompt response to the menace. The government have visited the quarantine facilities at the IDH, and all the trained staff for the purpose are well alerted for any further outbreak of the infection. Mr. Governor, I want to call on Mr. Governor, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, to further strengthen the sensitization awareness to Lagosian on good personal hygiene. Also, to direct relevant ministry to release emergency line to the public to report any suspected case of COVID-19. 3, Mr. Speaker, if possible, we should call on federal government to strengthen the security scrutiny of people coming into the country through our airports, seaports, and road borders, or outright banning of international flight from affected country. I so move, Mr. Speaker, sir. Thank you.
Who has live? Honorable Agunbiade.
Mr. Speaker, following the issue raised by the House Committee Chairman on Health, Honorable Shokunle, I wish to join my views that the executive arm of Lagos State government, led by the governor, should be commended for responding effectively to the news of detection of the first case of coronavirus in the States by a foreigner. They sprang into action and have taken necessary steps. The House of Assembly also, we have taken preventive measures around our facilities here. But worthy of note is the fact that the Commissioner for the Minister of Health, in a press address this morning, did say that there is no new case of coronavirus in Nigeria since the first one was detected. And about four nationals of China that were quarantined in a state in Nigeria have been discharged and they responded negative to coronavirus. Mr. Speaker, we've been monitoring the news and we discovered that people coming into Nigeria now are subjected to serious check. You will fill a form, they will check your temperature. Once it is between 36, 37, they let go of you. When it is a little bit above 37, you'll be subjected to further cross-examination, and where necessary, they will take you straight to where Honorable Shokunle has gone with the governor to inspect the facility in Yaba to see what are the preparedness. Mr. Speaker, I just wish to state that we need to call our people back at home to comply with all the preventive measures outlined. They have been saying them on the radio, the news. They have done printed materials to alert our people what they need to do to keep away from spreading this virus. And where you suspect any case, there are lines already released, to the public to contact those that should come to the rescue. We pray we don't suffer any further incident, and the ones so discovered so far will not spread beyond the appreciable height. I would have said that we call the Commissioner for Health to come and brief us on the preparedness, but I think they have made enough use of the media that it needs no further question as to whether Lagos State is prepared or not. Our government is trying as much as possible to put it under control, and we commend the collaboration between the executive and the legislature in ensuring that Lagos State is safe. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also want to join Honorable Shokunle with respect to the motion he has just brought on the matter of urgent public importance. We need to commend our state government. They've done wonderfully well. In short, Lagos State has played a big brother in this matter. As we all know, this gentleman who was infected was in Ogun State, and Lagos State asked the person to be brought down to Lagos because knowing full well if you leave the man in Ogun State and the facility is not there to contain him, it will eventually spread. So Lagos State has done great. Lagos State has saved Nigeria once again by asking them to bring this man over. Unfortunately, I would like to touch on another area, which is with respect to the fake news. A lot of fake news has been flying around about things that did not happen. At a point in time, somebody said the man escaped. I had to call the Commissioner for Health. He said the man is in front of him. He couldn't have escaped. He did something with respect to the Uber driver. Somebody that was not the Uber driver, they put somebody else's photograph there, claiming that the guy said he wanted 100 million naira. All these were fake news. At this time where we need to bond together as a nation, some people are capitalizing on it, maybe to drive up their followership and the rest of it. So something needs to also be done about that. However, while we complain about the people that have done so badly by pushing such falsehood out, we also need to commend the people that have put a lot of good news, right news out there to educate people about the danger, educate people on what to do next, what not to do, sneezing, if you want to sneeze, sneeze into your armpit, and so on and so forth. They've also done very well. Like Honorable Agumbiade said, majority leader, I think we also need to go back home and educate our constituents. Let them understand that it's not garlic and the rest of it that you need to use to wash your hands. All you need is soap and water. Ensure that if you are feeling ill, don't go out. Stay at home. If you feel you are infected, numbers to call. Lagos State has already pushed out these numbers that are available for them to call. So wholeheartedly, I support everything that Honorable Shokule has moved. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Coronavirus. Well, we want to thank God and thank the executive government for taking a prompt action to address the issue as it was raised. At the same time, I want to appeal to our people not to blow it beyond expectations. Fine, the incident happens far away in China, and first case has been reported in Lagos State. That does not mean it has spread across the state. It has gotten a situation where brothers can no longer shake each other. I think we need to take it softly. A situation where my colleagues were trying to greet me with legs or nodding heads, I feel we should not allow it to affect our relationship.
The Lagos State government has taken a proactive action to ensure that the case did not spread beyond expectation. We knew what happened during Ebola, how Lagos was able to curb it. Lagos is so central to this country that if anything happened in Lagos State and actions were not taken immediately, it will spread across the country fast and beyond. So government has made adequate provision, and that has been done. I want to equally appeal to our people to take our health seriously. We should not compromise our health standard, high hygiene standard, so that we don't just, because Corona is here now, we take our hygiene with levity. This is a signal that we have to be very active. We have to take our hygiene very seriously and protect ourselves from all those diseases. And Mr. Speaker, our people need to be informed too. Like I agree with the majority leader. Tell them preventive measures so that we don't run into problem. And Lagos, as a center of excellence, we have to take necessary precautions and educate our people so that they get more informed. If possible, drug healthcare officers. Then, furthermore, sir, the health sectors should use complete disposable materials, not where you use materials for 1 or 2 people under the guise of non-availability. Lagos State government should invest more on disposable materials now to prevent further development of these things in our hospitals. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. I must commend Honorable Shokunle for bringing this issue forth. And however, in furtherance of all these preventive measures that have been taken, I will urge that starting from us, the House of Assembly, that we should provide, as it were, all these disinfectants in those places where we have people, and also in front of this chamber, and also urge the state government, because we have about 40,000 people, and local government, to do the same within their office premises, while we should encourage, as it were, private companies and individuals to do all of this so that we can prevent this deadly virus. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay. Honorable Akode.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to rise to add my voice. It is high time that we start taking things seriously. When this news came up that coronavirus is the order of the day, it is imperative and incumbent on the federal government to have done the needful, not to allow some of these people from this country that is affected to come to Nigeria. Like so many other countries, they've already banned flights from those affected areas. But we kept mute. Maybe because we are black, we thought we can fight it. Secondly, it is high time that we have to look inward. And the federal government should do the needful about the porous boundaries, the borders that enter Nigeria. If we say coronavirus is coming from the airport, and they didn't come from the airport, they come from all these boundaries, land borders, what do we do? So it is high time. And if, again, we as state executive, or we can legislate on our land borders, then we have to take precautions. Finally, sir, this is the time we really need the scientists. We needed the scientists to set in motion research that will bring about the vaccine to this particular coronavirus, so that we will be able to save ourselves. Thank you, sir.
Honorable Osho.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, Mr. Speaker, I want to commend Honorable Shokunle for bringing this, but a lot has been said about this disease fighting the world now. Firstly, Mr. Speaker, sir, Honorable Shao spoke about fake news. I think something needs to be done about that because it's putting more fear into people than even the disease itself. And I want to believe that anybody that is caught doing that should be made to face the law. I think it's important because we need to start correcting this thing. That's number one, sir. Number two, sir, if you're coming from abroad to Nigeria, these foreign flights, they will spread insecticide in their plane. They don't care either we like it or not, but they're just trying to train their people. And like a senator said last week on the floor of the Senate, that when they go to South Africa, they were all asked to sit in the plane, and they were all checked before they were allowed into the country. There is nothing stopping us as a country too. Any flight coming from anywhere, it doesn't have to be anywhere now because Italy was not in the list before, so it could be anywhere. There's nothing stopping us from making sure that anybody coming into the country is checking the plane before stepping onto the shores of Nigeria. I think that's important. Again, sir, Mr. Speaker, when this thing broke out, so many other countries evacuated their citizens. We've not heard any about Nigerians. And there was an issue of Nigerians in Wuhan, in China. I think the federal government should look into this. That's important too. And on a final note, the infectious disease hospital, IDH, happens to be my constituency. And I think for now, it's the only one we have in Lagos. When Ebola broke out, it was the same hospital that saved us. When this happened now, it's the same hospital we are using. But every time something happens, that's when we rush to make sure the hospital is ready. I want to employ the state government to make sure, we should make sure this hospital is ready anytime. We should upgrade our hospital. It's the only one we have in Lagos State. I don't know, maybe there's any in the country. We should be ready anytime for anything to break out. Thank you, sir.
Honorable Olumo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me join my colleague in commending the effort of the state government, especially the House of Assembly here, because I knew very well that when we had this news, the leadership of the House took a very important role by getting all members and our staffs educated about this very COVID-19. However, I will need to say that as at the time this incident occurred, the Italian man that came into the country came in through Turkish airline, and there were about 156 passengers in this airline. Information has it that some of them were not even able to trace them because they didn't give the right phone or contact address. There is nothing Nigerians should be afraid of. If information is required, we should try and, as much as possible to make such information available. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, I want to talk about the corporate bodies. This is the right time for our corporate bodies to come up and stand up. Not about making money alone. They should invest their CRR, corporate social responsibility, to do positive enlightenment. They should also invest in the health sector. Let them come to our localities and support the effort of the state government in ensuring that things like this we can curb in the bud. Lastly, sir, I know in some countries, like Honorable Victor Akonde said, in Kenya, for example, the citizen took the government to court, saying that any plane from China should not land in Kenya. I've not seen Nigeria does that, but okay, in Nigeria we're even lucky because we don't have direct flight from most of this country. But I believe that we should put everything in place to ensure that this very, very disease is nipped in the bud. Thank you very much, sir. God bless you.
Thank you. Honorable Kasu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. At least in the last few moments that coronavirus broke out worldwide, I could say that every day when I come out of my house and I go back in, I can say categorically that I am free from coronavirus. Why do I say this? It's quite simple. Within the estate where I live, there's a method that was adopted where they check the temperature every time you go in and out of the estate. They check the temperature of the residents to be rest assured that everything is in order. However, on this note, I would actually like to suggest or opine that this kind of system should be adopted by our government residential schemes that we have across the state, to making sure that we secure the lives of so many that live within these residential areas. And I must say that as a matter of note, coronavirus is not a respecter of boundaries or borders. It can come in from anywhere, shape, or form, and it is the onus has been placed on the government as a whole to further educate and enlighten the people. We have done so much as far as this is concerned, based on the information that has been expressed over the social media and across all mediums. And we've been able to, so far, do it. But it is pertinent for me to note that we need to also look inwards in the areas of perhaps our Chinese nationals who also work within the state. We do not have an idea how their travel plan has been in the last recent times. We need to do some sort of form of survey to find out who have traveled out, in and out in the last recent times, to be able to be properly guided and secure our lives and our lives generally. As a matter of fact, coronavirus is something that is threatening the whole world as a whole, but we can obviously do so much like we have done already in Lagos State. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Macaulay.
Thank you, the Right Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to speak. I want to join voice with my colleagues who have really said enough about the deadly scourge, the coronavirus. Especially, I want to commend Honorable Shokunle for having brought this matter to the fore. I also want to thank the Governor, Mr. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu of Lagos State, for moving in so swiftly to address the situation. And of course, I even watched him over the news yesterday. He was well kitted in the preventive gear, and that for me was very impressive. It's a moral panic, and I want to speak in two directions. First and foremost, the orientation of our people. Once there is a problem or there is a breaking news on, concerning the disaster or what have you, Nigerians begin to take advantage of the situation, and for me, this is very appalling. It is very inhuman. The prices of sanitizers now, it's very alarming. It's so, it's on the increase, it's on the high side, and for me, this is about the time when we should see people or companies, giving out all of those things for free to people, just as much as showing that, that they have a human face and they also care about the citizens, as we see, in other climes, what they do abroad to their citizens. We Nigerians should also imbibe this culture of having human, social responsibility for one another and be our brother's keeper. I also want to say this in the second direction, the Right Honorable Speaker. Permit me to say this, that China, the Republic of China, is one of the leading countries around the world where a lot of African countries, especially Nigeria, has benefited from their economic prowess. I want to seize this medium that we, as a people of Lagos State, if we can come forward to come up with a special solidarity visit to the consular or the consulate of the Republic of China here in Lagos. When we have this visit, Right Honorable Speaker, when we get to their consulate, we'll have a track record of their travel, itinerary of all of their citizens and all the information that we need to guide us on how we can actually crack down on all of their citizens and how they move around within the state. Secondly, I could recall that ab initio, when this 9th Assembly began, the consular of the Republic of China paid a courtesy visit to this noble house and came to watch us in our plenary. I think this is the time that we as a people of Lagos State, the progressive people of Lagos State that we are, pay a courtesy visit. The Right Honorable Speaker, with your leadership, sir, you can go with your, with your crew to pay a visit to the consulate and show your humanitarian gesture, and also to give them your assurances, sir, that this difficult period, especially with their country, would pass by. These are my opinions, Right Honorable Speaker, and I want to thank my honorable colleagues for your listening pleasure.
Honorable Tijadi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think I want to join other colleagues to commend the effort of the Lagos State Governor, Mr. Babajide Olusola Sanwo-Olu, because when I was coming back from my trip, I discovered that the system of our airport has taken another dimension. We are all given form to fill all our information, and immediately the test has been carried out. And I want to also appeal to the federal government to complement the effort of Lagos State government, because if I could remember, when I was at Saudi, immediately they discover a victim in Lagos State. Despite it's not the citizens of this country, it's from Italy. They have to return all the citizens of Nigeria to go back to their country. At least, if they can take this measure, our life will be more preferable and to be prevented by the federal government. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I thank you all for your contributions, and it shows we really have interest of our people at that. And I've listened to what's have been canvassed by you all, but there are some things that we cannot, put to practice. For those who suggested probably we should ban some aircrafts coming from where this virus has been noticed, I think that might be impossible for our country, because you don't just think in isolation of other factors, you look at the economic situation of the country. In barring flights coming to Nigeria, you have to consider the economic consequence as well. And that does not mean we have to trade the health of our people for economic, but we still have to evaluate everything before making pronouncement. And on the side of the federal government, it is also necessary to say that the federal government and Lagos State governments are working hand in hand in this respect to combat and prevent, the spread of the virus. Well, I think we should commend this house as well, because we say let us commend the governor and his team, no doubt about that. He is the head of our government, and for the steps they have taken so far, that's I also share. But we should remember also that when the issue of Ebola broke out, this house, in its own wisdom and initiative, also came up with a law for cancer and disease control, which asks for establishment of an institute for cancer and disease control. This shows that we have thought about this in advance after the Ebola issue, that something like this can actually come up. So it's for us to call on the executive, on the governor and his team to implement the provision of this law. So we can't continue to come up with emergency, response to every situation. We should have established institute that will be in charge and that can manage situation of this nature. We just hope it will not spread beyond, because like being analyzed by one of us, from the Italian to the hostess, the passengers in the same aircraft, from the driver that took him to the hotel where he passed the night, the staff of the hotel and other guests in the hotel to where he is working and all sorts. So you need to consider, only God knows the number of people who, but the advantage of it is that, well, at the point, as we've been told, that at that point, that the gestation period has not come to the actualization time. So that probably might have prevented the spread of that virus. We just pray, we pray so. And I think what we should be thinking about is our readiness and preparedness to combat this thing. If we are already at third time, as they say in the Boy Scouts, at third time, stand by. So if you are stand by at third time, definitely we will reduce or prevent, the incursion of this thing into our society, because we just need to face the reality that, everything seems to be porous in this part of the world. You talk about these children at school, the public school, the private school. You talk about our open markets. You talk about the buses, the passengers traveling. You talk about so many things. So we need to reach out to so many organizations. We need to reach out as fast as we can, for awareness, to educate them so they can pass such education to everybody that passes through. The local government chairman and SCDA chairman, the CDA, CDC, the NRTW, you have the religion leaders, all of them. We just have to talk to them. And in Iran, Jumat, which is very important in Islamic life, was banned. People were encouraged to pray in their houses. So we should also emulate such. Not going to church for this period will not stop your prayer from being answered. And the same thing goes for the Muslims. And we still go to party. I was in war yesterday. I attended one. YCT people were coming to say hello, hello. And I was thinking at the back of my mind, is he it or the support of political group? So it's just that we just need to be on top of this game. We need to do a lot. We need to talk to people. I think that is the most important thing. We need to talk to people. And for those who cannot afford the masks and the sanitizer, as being said, let us wash our hands. Let's get a scarf, where necessary, most especially when you are in a good, huge gathering. So we can use the scarf, handkerchief or scarf, to cover up for a period that we are going to spend within that such gathering. But I think we need to do more. At this point, it is very important that we establish an institute. It's just very, very important, because we can't continue. Nobody prays for something of this nature. But after the, what is it called? Well, it was cancer, AIDS, now Ebola, now Lassa, Corona, and some people say Corona. But it's not Corona, it's coronavirus. So all these things, we just need to have something in place so we stop these, hurriedly put together arrangements. I think these are the, my own view about this. But our public school is very important. Our public school is just very important in this case. So maybe we need to get to the governor, to get to the commissioner for education, so that they can start doing something about it. So, Honorable Shokunle, please, without this, can you come up with a well-harmonized prayer?
Sir, you mean all you mentioned so far?
Are you?
Well, as amended by Mr. Speaker, thank you, sir. Because it's much.
What have you amended? We've only made contributions with
Mr. I won't be able to say anything now. Mr. Speaker, you said the first one, we should call on Mr. Governor, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, to further strengthen the sensitization awareness to Lagosian. That is very key. Also, to implement the already established law for the purpose. Yeah, for the purpose. And also to call on the governor to direct the Commissioner for Education to do proper awareness in all our schools. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I so move.
Honorable Olumo, are you amending?
I want to second.
No, I don't think that is. Who else has the lights? I think we should. I think we should start by, commending the governor for his proactiveness and his effort in preventing the spread of the virus, and also call on him to reach out to all organizations in the states, to start awareness campaign for the prevention of the virus, one, and two, to ensure the implementation of the Law on Disease Control Institute. So which other one? This is called, what? Religious body, where all organizations and religious bodies, and also to call on the Commissioner for Education to ensure adequate awareness campaign in our public schools and private schools. Do you get that? Yeah, Honorable Shokunle.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Information. Information, sir.
As amended.
Information,
by the Speaker, sir. Thank you.
Well, as amended, Honorable Olumo.
I rise to support the motion as moved. As I rise to second the motion as moved. As amended, sir. Thank you.
All in favor say ayes. Those against nay. The ayes have it. Personal explanations? None. Reports? None. Honorable Tunde Braimoh.
Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, good afternoon. I stand before you this afternoon to lay a report of the Committee on Information Security and Strategy on the bill for a law to amend the Lagos State Neighbourhood Safety Cause Law 2019. I so lay.
Yeah, Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the report solely is also listed for presentation. May I therefore move that House of Assembly Bill number 5, the report of the Committee on Information with regards to the report in respect of House of Assembly Bill number 5, Lagos State Neighborhood Safety Cause Agency Amendment Bill. I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker. May I move that the House dissolve to Committee of the Whole to take the report of the Committee on Information in respect of report on Lagos State Neighborhood Safety Cause Agency Amendment Bill 2020. I so move.
Honorable Togo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to second the motion as moved by the majority
All
leader.
in favor say ayes. Those against nay. The ayes have it. The Honorable Braimoh.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Distinguished colleagues, the House of Assembly at plenary session of Thursday, 28 February 2020, deliberated on a bill to amend the Lagos State Neighbourhood Safety Corps Law 2019 and committed same to the Committee on Information Strategy and Security for further scrutiny. The committee was also mandated to organize a public hearing / stakeholders meeting in order to seek inputs from concerned stakeholders and members of the public on the proposed amendment. Consequently, a public hearing was held on Monday, 24th February 2020 at the Assembly Pavilion, where presentations were made by members of the public and memoranda were submitted by concerned stakeholders in the security sector. The Speaker, with your kind permission, sir, may I move to page 4, item 6.0, no, page 3, or 2 rather, 5.0, page 2, item 5.0, observations. If you permit, sir, I read from page 2, item 5.0, sir. The following observations were made from the submissions and contributions of stakeholders. 1, that there is the need to amend the long title of the bill to reflect the strategic importance of the Amotekun in the operation of the agency. 2, the proposed amendment to section 1 be further amplified by explaining the meaning of the word arms without ambiguity. 3, there's a need to define Southwest states. 4, section 10D to limit recruitment into the corps to indigenes of Southwest states. 5, there's a need to create a new subsection 10(1) to cater for tactical training of the corps. 6, section 4 to make provisions for the inclusion of a member of the Lagos State Council of Obas and Chiefs in the board. 7, section 5 should provide for a representative of the area of Nakakanfo of Yoruba land in the board. 8, a representative each of the Miyetti Allah and other tribal-based groups be put on the board. 9, the command structure of the LNSC and the Amotekun Corps should be spread according to the 5 divisions of the state. 10, there is the need to specify the educational qualifications of prospective corps members. 11, consideration should be given to uneducated hunters and other skilled members of a community who must understand the terrain of their locality well. 12, there is the need to amend section 10 to create units and departments under the agency as the need arises. 13, functions of the board in section 10 should be amended to empower the agency to design and approve the uniform and insignia for different grades of the corps. 14, there is the need to explore local intelligence in the operations of the corps. 15, the organogram and working relationship between the board, the chairman, executive secretary, and Amotekun commander be properly alerted to avoid clashes and duplication of duties. 16, in section 36(2)(b)(3), inside the phrase immediate prosecution after the word post. 17, the corps should be allowed to collaborate and cooperate with security agencies in other states of the Federation, and in particular those of Ekiti, Ondo, Osun, and Oyo states, under section 17, and in case of exigencies, undertake joint operations with those agencies. 18, the proposed new section 36 to allow the Amotekun corps to also function internally within the states as well as the borderlines. 19, the new section 36(2)(b) be extended to include waterways and not just highways. 20, the proposed section 36(5) be amended to prescribe eligibility for appointment to the office of the chairman to be either a retired police or military officer with proven integrity not below the rank of a major or its equivalent in other security services, or any person of proven integrity who has not less than 10 years coverage experience in security services. 21, there is the need to properly situate and designate the command structure or organogram to allow for an organization based on order. There should be a deputy or assistant, there should be deputy or assistant commanders for the Amotekun Corps to ensure that the units or departments are properly controlled. 22, it is important to provide for insurance or other compensatory schemes for the Corps. 23, there should be established an ombudsman or public complaint center to deal with reported cases of excessiveness or ultra-virus actions by the Corps. 24, there should be proper designation and clarification of the Amotekun symbol, as people will believe the cheetah is more appropriate than the leopard. And 25, the law should prohibit the use or employment of the Amotekun Corps by any person or authority for political or personal use. 6.0 recommendations. From the observations and memoranda submitted by the stakeholders, the committee recommends as follows. 1. The long title of the bill be redrafted to read, a bill for a law to establish the Lagos State Neighbourhood Safety and Lagos Amotekun Corps Agency for the regulation and control of the Corps activities to assist security agencies in maintaining law and order in the state and for connected purposes. The short title, however, shall be the Lagos State Safety and Amotekun Corps Amendment Law 2020. 2. The proposed amendment to Section 1. Sorry, please, that place should read Section 1, please. The proposed amendment to Section 1 be amplified to read arms, mean weapon properly licensed by the police under the Firearms Act. 3. The logo of the Amotekun shall remain the leopard and not the cheetah, as suggested by some proponents. The Amotekun is a leopard, while the cheetah is Owawa in Yoruba language. Owawa is mostly on the tree. 4. Redraft Section 10B of the principal law to read, establish the Uniform Safety Corps and any other units, squads, or departments in the agency with appropriate ranks, designation, or command structure as the need arises. 5. Create a new Section 10 to read, the Commissioner may, by regulation, prescribe the entry point requirements for members of the Corps. In arriving at the qualification, emphasis shall be placed on integrity, moral rectitude, proven bravery, knowledge of the community, and relevant skills, in addition to or in lieu of educational qualification. 6. Recruitment into the Amotekun Corps of the agency shall be open to indigenes of the communities where they seek to serve, or to residents who have spent not less than 20 consecutive years in the community. 7. Create a new Section 10H to read, the Commissioner shall by regulation prescribe the command management structure consisting of designation and hierarchy, and draw an organogram or command structure for the agency. The structure shall place the board, the chairman, the executive secretary, and the Lagos Neighbourhood Safety Corps commander, the Amotekun commander, and deputy commander, unit heads in that order of hierarchy, or any such properly designed order that may guarantee control, orderliness, effective management, and efficiency of the agency. Structure shall also be cognizant of the 5 divisions of the state. 8. Create a new Section 10.5 to read, organize tactical and intelligence training for corps members. 9. Create a new Section 36.2.4 to read, exploring local intelligence or know-how for effective operation of the corps. 10. In Section 36.2b2, insert the phrase and ensure immediate prosecution after the word post. 11. Replace the proposed Section 36b with report directly to the Executive Secretary and implement the board's decisions. 12. In the proposed Section 36.6d, delete the words and control of after the word supervision and insert over. 13. The nomenclature of the Executive Secretary should be changed to General Manager as proposed in Section 4b. 14. It may not be necessary to insist that the Executive Secretary or General Manager must be a lawyer with security background. The proposed Section 14.1 may be redrafted to require the Executive Secretary to be a lawyer as in the extant law. This is because the functions of the Executive Secretary or General Manager, as the office may become, are largely legal and administrative, given the outcry against militarizing or policing the corps. 15, the appointment or reappointment of the chairman of the board, the executive secretary, and commander of Amatekun Corps, as may be designated, shall be subject to the confirmation of the House of Assembly. 16, an addition should be made to the proposed resolution 17 to read, and in the case of exigencies, with such security agencies within or outside the state border. 17, the proposed 36 be drafted to allow the Amatekun Corps to also function internally within the state as well as the border lines. 18, the proposed section 36 2B be drafted to include waterways and not just highway subject to any existing legislation on waterways. 19, the proposed section 36(5) should be drafted to provide for eligibility for appointment as commander of Amatekun Corps, open to persons of proven integrity and applicable character, to either be a retired police officer or military officer, not below the rank of a major or its equivalent in other security agencies, or any person of proven integrity who has not less than 10 years commitment experience in security services. 20. The commissioner shall, by way of regulation, provide for insurance covers and other compensation schemes for corps members in line of duty. 21. A new section shall be created to provide for an ombudsman or public complaint center to deal with any case, any reported case of excessiveness or ultra-virus action by the courts. 22, there should be a new section in the law to prohibit the use of to prohibit the use or employment of the courts by any person or authority for political or personal use. 23, we draft the proposed section 34(7) to read: the Amatekun Corps commander shall be appointed subject to the confirmation of the House of Assembly for a term of 4 years and may be eligible for a further appointment subject to confirmation of the House of Assembly. 24, we draft section 34(8) to read: the Lagos Amatekun Corps commander shall be removed from office by the governor subject to the concurrence of the House of Assembly for misconduct or abuse of office. The House of Assembly may, by resolution, pass a vote of no confidence on the Corps commander in proven cases of misconduct. And 25, we should renumber all the sections and subsections accordingly. In conclusion, the committee expresses deep gratitude to Mr. Speaker and distinguished members for the opportunity given us to carry out this assignment. We also appreciate the Clerk of the House and the Secretariat for their support at ensuring the timely completion of this report. Braimoh, Kosofe, Chairman, Committee on Information, Strategy and Security. Second.
Honorable Lua.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I hereby move that the report should be adopted for debate.
What language?
I hereby move that the report should be adopted for debate.
Thank you. Honorable Tabu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I second the motion as moved by Honorable.
All in favor say aye. Those against now, the ayes have it. Honorable Okola.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, I want to say here that a job has been well done by the committee in charge, led by Honorable Braimoh. I just have a little contribution to add. Bearing in mind, sir, that the committee, the Amatekun Corps will be bearing arms. And not forgetting that there is every need for us to ensure that those to be enlisted as a member of the Amatekun Corps must maintain a mental balance and sanity of mind. I want to add that we should find a place in the law where background medical check.
The requirements for employment should not come into a law. So that will be managed at the board or the center when they are ready to employ.
Thank you, sir.
Honorable Togo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sincerely, I want to commend the committee for a job well done. But I have some observation. Recommendation 6. Since we are saying Amotekun is meant to serve members of the who are from Southwest, and it said recruitment into Amotekun corps of the agency shall be open to individuals of the community where they seek to serve or to reside who have spent not less than 20 consecutive years in the community. I want a situation where we put who are from Southwest, because people can live in a community for 20 years who are not from Southwest. If it is not clearly stated, it may jeopardize the meaning. Then, item 22, where they said there should be a new section in the law to prohibit the use of employment of the corps by any person or authority for political or personal use. I agree with political, but for personal use, I remember that even policemen, we do employ them. When there are some individuals who employ policemen to work with them, because if you are saying Amotekun is to protect our people, majorly in the Southwest, and we are saying they cannot be used when registered or booked from their command, it may be dangerous. So I feel it may end up using people who are not from your tribe, and it may pose danger. So I feel for political reason is carried. But for personal use, once we can make use of, when people can book for police and even soldiers, and they approve it for them, I don't see reason why people who are ready to enlist the support or cooperation or their backup should not get it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Satonji.
Yeah, the Right Honorable Speaker, my colleagues, this is a very good report, and in fact, every aspect of it is fantastic. But I have one or two observations. On page 3, that is number 8, that has to do with a representative of Yeti Allah and other tribal days. This thing, I don't think that should be. Sorry, okay, that's observation. Then the issue of educational qualification, which has already been mentioned, that this particular corps is a special corps, and we have said it earlier, severally, that we want to emphasize our local people. Now, this educational qualification thing, I want to suggest that we de-emphasize it, because by that, we will limit, our target recruitment may not be qualified, and we just eliminate them. So I want to also to de-emphasize the issue of that qualification. Now, in the area of recommendation 15, we are talking of the executive secretary. I want to suggest that the general manager is very apt, so that we can have a this thing. And the issue of having military men or retired police officer have been discussed a number of times, that they don't have monopoly of security experience. We have had people who are very vast in security, and they were never policemen and army officers. So that's I'm of the opinion that we should de-emphasize that area. I think those are the only two that I have for now. Thank you, sir.
Honorable Shah.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also want to commend the committee chaired by Honorable Braimoh, that's Committee on Information Strategy and Security, for a job well done. I have just two observations. I think it might be typographical, but they're not referring to appropriate sections of the bill that is being worked on. If you look at recommendation 8, you have create a new section 10.5. Your section 10 does not go that far, so you need to look at that, because that's, unless it's 10S or something, so that needs to be looked at. Then recommendation 10, you are referring to in section 36(2)B, Roman figure B. The word post does not exist in that section. But looking through, I think I observed you were trying to refer to part 3, Roman figure 3. So if that is the case, you need to make that adjustment. But by and large, I think they've done relatively very well. Thank you.
Honorable Chief. Good afternoon, my chairman and my dear colleagues. I also want to appreciate the chairman of this committee. However, I want to also observe item 22, the one Honorable Tobu have talked about. We do respect to Honorable Tobu. I want to disagree with his position, because I believe that what is written here for me is good enough, because if you watch what is happening in our system, the political class and those that believe that have money have bastardized the police force and the military. I don't see the reason why, if you have, the military is there to defend the nation, and police is to secure life and property for everybody, but you see that we abuse it because maybe you have money, the other person don't have money, and we don't have enough police in the system. So why must somebody who believes you have money will now hire a policeman, while the poor and those that don't have will not have the ability to do that? So I believe this is standing in a good pedestal, so that if Ametuku, by the grace of God, is start, nobody individually highly placed can now say he wants to have them privately, because I don't believe we even have enough to secure everybody as proposed. Because if we have the rules and let's say everybody is well secure, there is no need for individuals to be hiring people like that for us. Thank you, and God bless you.
Yeah, Honorable Naim.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I also want to join my colleagues to commend the chairman of this committee for a job well done. However, I want to go to recommendation 23, where they talk about for a time of 4 years. I want to suggest that probably we should increase it to 5 years, since we are talking about security. We've been giving other agencies 5 years recently, so I want to suggest that we should push it to 5 years. That's one. Secondly, recommendation 5, where they talk about the commissioner made by regulation. I want the chairman to specify which commissioner is he talking about. I want to know the particular commissioner, whether commissioner for justice, whether commissioner for information. I want it to be well prescribed. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Honorable Abiru.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, fellow members. I also want to commend the committee for the promptness of delivering on this bill. However, Mr. Speaker, I would want to call the attention of the committee chairman to a couple of observations. Firstly, on the recommendation number 2, where he proposed that we should amplify the word arms somewhere. I do not, well, section 8 of the original law spoke about remuneration and allowance. So I actually don't know section is referring to include the word arms in there. Again, Mr. Speaker, in the amendment sent to us, Lagos Amotekun Corps was defined, means officials engaged under the Lagos State Safety Corps Border Patrol Unit. It is in the amendment that they brought to us, and for the committee not to have said anything on that definition, I want to presume that I just want to ask whether they still, the word Border Patrol Unit, I don't think appears anywhere in their report. So I actually want them to take cognizance of that too. Away from that, Mr. Speaker, the recommendation number 7, where they said we should create a new section 10H. From what is written here, I think the section tends to give the commissioner the power by regulation to prescribe a command structure and hierarchy stroke organogram for the agency on one hand. And on the other hand, I mean, following that, you can see the structure shall. Now, what I see here, this section, this recommendation number 7, is that I think we should stop it at the agency. Permit me, Mr. Speaker. He said, create a new section 10H to read, the commissioner shall by regulation prescribe the command management structure consisting of designation and hierarchy and draw organogram for the command structure of the agency. I think that is sufficient. Going further to the other words there, I don't think it is necessary. Since we are making a law, and on one hand, we are empowering the commissioner by regulation to do this, I want to suggest that the other thing that may be necessary there should be the last sentence under that recommendation, which the structure shall also be cognizant of the partition of the state. The recommendation number 8, I think the Honorable Shawu has already spoken on that. There is no section 10.5 anywhere in the law. And again, going further, because I also have the original law here with me, I want to be clear that what we are attempting to do with this amendment is to have a 2-in-1 core. On one hand, we have the Lagos State Neighbourhood Safety Corps existing as maybe a division, and also the Amotekun Corps. I would want to reason that there should be a synergy or a clear distinction between the Neighborhood Safe Commander, the Amotekun Corps Commander, and whether they will both be reporting through the Executive Secretary to the board. Thank you very much, sir.
Honorable Jimo.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I appreciate the work of the committee, and I commend the effort put into it so far. However deserved that may be, Mr. Speaker, I feel strongly that the discipline of the corps members, the Amotekun Corps members, should be part of this law. That is my first observation. My second observation is on the recommendation 8. I agreed that any ethnic nationalities can be a member of the board, but not specifically mentioning a group vis-a-vis the one mentioned in the, because we are forming a law. Tomorrow we may not have the existence of Meiti Allah tomorrow. So if I agree that Lagos is a cosmopolitan state, Nigeria indeed is a federation. That's why I agreed partially with Honorable Jude on his submission to the response to Honorable Tobo. But you can put it on the very blank statement that any member of ethnic nationalities that lives within a geographical contiguity within Lagos for a period of so year can be a member of, can even be a member of Amotekun, instead of making a categorical statement. The other observation, I also observed that if the committee could use another better or more appropriate language, with due respect, if it is taken anyway, instead of us saying that uneducated hunters, I think some of them may be educated, not necessarily following the formal system of education. And it's because they are educated, that's why we also need their services in the Amotekun Corps. I think it will be preferable if it is mentioned that unlettered, or perhaps the traditional people, instead of using the word uneducated hunters. That is what I think I would just suggest if it is taken.
Honorable Kosofe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to observe that the committee has done a very good job. I commend them, the members. But I have some observations to make. The first one, Mr. Speaker, has been talked about. I just want to canvass an opinion in respect of it. And that is recommendation 6.6, talking about recruitment into Amotekun Corps shall be open to indigenes of the community where they seek to serve, or to residents who have spent not less than 20 consecutive years in the community. I think it should also be a condition that such a person must understand the native language, because Amotekun is more, and Amotekun and our Neighbourhood Safety Corps is more of intelligence unit. And to that extent, you need to understand the language. How do you gather intelligence when you don't know what those you are surveillancing are speaking? So I think it also be a condition that such a person will understand native language. Number two, Mr. Speaker, my second observation is in respect of recommendation 11 or recommendation 19, talking about proposed section 36 should be redrafted to provide for eligibility for appointment as commander of Amotekun, open to person of proven integrity and impeccable character to be either. I think at some level, Mr. Speaker, there was a consensus that the issue of retired police, retired military officer should be expunged from recommendation and only made eligibility as of any person of proven integrity who has not less than 10 years cognate experience in security services. And the argument is that it can also accommodate anybody who is neither in the military or in the police force to be appointed once that person has cognate experience in security services. Mr. Speaker, I think that this is very important. Also, Mr. Speaker, I think there should be provision for insurance for members of these Amotekun Corps, so that it will further encourage them to be more daring and wanting to stake whatever they have this, provided they know that there is insurance to cover them. Mr. Speaker, I also want to say that we should be careful in the use of the word Southwest in this bill that will become a law. We have been trying to run away from that because of the misconception that Amotekun is trying to create a regional army or security corps. And to be in line with other provisions in this law, where technically we have avoided the use of Southwest and resorted to using states of Ogun, Oyo, Osun, and the rest of it. So if we states where we have Southwest, if we break it down to defining Southwest states and mentioning them, I think technically we'll be going away from the word Southwest. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I wish to say that reading through the draft provided brought to the House of Assembly at the stage of second reading and at the public hearing, issues were raised on the restrictive definition of the special unit as border patrol unit. And if you look at the amendment brought, Mr. Speaker, with your kind permission, if I may read, there is established a special neighborhood safety corps, border unit referred to in this law as Lagos State Amotekun Corps. Since they have called it special neighborhood safety corps, Mr. Speaker, we can still christen it as establishment of neighborhood safety corps special unit instead of making it border patrol, which restricts the powers to it. It's a special unit, it can become a special squad, but certainly not restrictive as confining its patrol and work to border patrol, which can create a legal tussle and, of course, redefinition of function and questioning of capability. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Those are my observations. Once again, I commend the committee.
Honorable Olabi. Report of your life. Honorable Akonde.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to have a mind to some of the sections so that there won't be duplication of duplications. Some of my colleagues has said something about the corps. Section, the Roman figure 5 in the recommendation has cured some of the things we are looking for. The commissioner may, by regulation, prescribe the entry point requirement for members of the corps in arriving at the qualification, emphasis shall be placed on integrity, moral rectitude. That has cured the issue of, then what majority leader have just said about insurance, section 20, Roman figure 20, have already cured that, sir. The commissioner shall, by way of regulation, provide for insurance covers and other compensation schemes for corps members in line of duty. That's what I wanted to point our observation to. Thank you very much, sir.
Honorable Braimoh, can you respond to the...
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank distinguished members for their contributions, which have made the discourse very robust. However, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to respond to some of the issues raised. Maybe it can clear, maybe my response can clear some of the issues. Otherwise, we look at it further from another perspective. The Speaker, please permit me, because there are so many papers that I wrote. First is my brother, Honorable Okola Osoni, who asked, since the Amotekun squad will be bearing arms, that they should be of good mental health. And I thank Mr. Speaker for his kind intervention in that. He has answered that. So I think the committee thanks Mr. Speaker and abides and adopts the answer of Mr. Speaker on that. Then Honorable Tobu spoke about recommendation number 6, which he said, since the Amotekun is to serve in the southwest, why would it should be indicated that we should indicate that the corps members should be from the southwest. We want to say that we are trying to avoid any clash with the Constitution of Nigeria. There is a Federal Character Commission in Nigeria. All indigenous, all residents of Nigeria who are licensed to live in Nigeria have right to work if they have the right exploitative quota. Especially indigenous of the country have right to work in the country, anywhere in the country. So we are trying to be very careful not to be emphatic on what can give us some legal issues. That's why we are trying to do that. As a matter of fact, if we want to take the sentiments of people in, we will have said, if you look at the observations, that's what is there. People want the outfit to be restricted to purely indigenous of the Southwest. But we are just trying to, and at the regional talks held somewhere, Mr. Speaker was there and the majority leader, I think the consensus was that we should, as much as possible, leave it to each state to determine how he wants to couch his own. And that we are proposing that in Lagos, because Lagos state is a cosmopolitan state, it's different from some other states. Some other states emphatically say, no, they are not going to do that. But we are trying to reflect our own status. Well, that's it's for the House to take it one way or the other. Then, Honorable Tobun took it further to item 22, where he said, if we can prohibit the use of the course for personal use, for political use, he doesn't agree that we should prohibit the use of the course for personal use. Because if you can kind of book for support from police, why not from the neighborhood, from the Amotekun? But especially the Amotekun, because if you see what we put there, it's Amotekun and not the Lagos Neighborhood Safety Corps per se, that we say is going to be restricted from personal use. Amotekun squad under the Lagos Neighborhood Safety Corps. Now there will be two agencies in one. So we can, still give some liberty to
Honorable Braimoh, in responding to the question, you have to be conscious of other who will still make comments. So you have to make it brief.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, Honorable Tobun. So, the Honorable Secretary David asked a question about why would we have to mention a certain ethnic tribe. I think Honorable Muwadimo's comment too went on that line, so let me take it together. What we mentioned of that tribe is in the observation and not in the recommendation. So please check it properly. We did not recommend. It was the observation, what people said. Because the people came out and said what they wanted, and we have to capture it. But we are not recommending it. Then the educational qualification as observed by Honorable Setonji is also an observation. Because if you look at the recommendation, we did not recommend that we should put emphasis on paper qualification. We are as informal as possible. Then Honorable Setonji agrees that the Executive Secretary should be changed to General Manager. We also thought so because even the Security Trust Fund is transforming from Executive Secretary to General Manager. So we thank you for aligning with us on that. Honorable Setonji further said we should not allow the military or police officers to have monopoly of taking certain offices. I also want to say too that if you check the recommendation, that's what we're trying to say there. Somebody said that we should couch it in such a way. I think Honorable Agubade said we should put it in such a way that we just say anybody with 10 years proven integrity, in public character, 10 years in security services. But we just put it in alternative. That's another way of saying it. What we just said was that it could be a police officer, it could be a military officer, and at the same time, it could be anybody who is knowledgeable and experienced in security services. So we can as well put it simply the way the majority leader suggested it. But we didn't restrict it to police officers or military officers alone. Then, Honorable Ishao, we thank you for your observation on our reference to 10.5. Actually, we are talking of creating a new subsection under section 10. So it's a new one. It's not been existing, but we made a mistake. Instead of referring to the Roman numeral, we use the number. So we take cognizance of that. Thank you very much. Then, Honorable Jude, thank you for aligning with us on the issue of the neighborhood, the COP members. Then, Honorable Abiru, reference, when I read that, when I read the recommendations out, I made apology that section 8 was an error and that what we meant was section 1, not section 8. I actually said it. I'm so sorry about that. We apologize again. And if you now read it, section 1, you now see that what we mean there. Then said, border patrol unit does not appear sufficiently in the recommendations and it's in the title. So how will we drop it? We shall take note of that. We shall take note of that and reflect it as much as possible. Then the power of the commission or commissioner to prescribe the commander, that the command structure, that we just leave it the way we have stated it, instead of explaining it in a verbose way, going further to say that maybe we should, after leaving it to the commissioner, we should leave it to him to do it properly. We are just trying to be careful because our fear on that is that we don't want to place the NNSC commander and the Amotekun commander on the same pedestal and reporting directly to the board. If we do that, there could be clash of authority from time to time. So it's an area that we need to look at. Who comes first? Maybe the two of them will be under an executive secretary who will give each person's job. But if we say each person should be on his own, reporting directly to the board, there could be a clash of authority. And that's what we're trying to emphasize here. But we hope the commissioner will get the hint. We can drop what you say we should drop, but we hope that whoever is doing the regulation will be cognizant of the fact that we cannot put two people, because everybody's job is nobody's job at the end of the day. So we have to put somebody in charge of something, not to say, okay, it's open to all, and I would want to do it, somebody wants to do it, and there'll be a clash of authority. We are trying to avoid that clash. But we will take cognizance of that when we are trying to do the final draft. Thank you very much. Then Honorable Jimo talked about discipline, that is not mentioned. We will include that, but of course we will leave it to regulation, but we will put it specifically that the commissioner by way of regulation prescribe disciplinary procedures for the corps members. Thank you for that too. Then the mention of that tribe, we have explained it, and it's not in the recommendation, it's only in the observation. Then you quarrel with the word uneducated, that why not unlettered? Why is the matter of lexicon? Well, we thank you for giving us your fountain of wisdom to draw from, which I note your observation. Thank you very much. Then, the doctor leader, who is the chief midwife of this bill, so you have more knowledge more than any other person here, except Mr. Speaker himself, whom you work together on it. So what you have said are well taken, and I'm sure you have superior knowledge on this matter. I only went to you once on that trip, and you went several times, and I know you are well knowledgeable in it. But I just want to ask you why you think somebody who has lived somewhere consecutively for 20 years will not understand the language. I don't know it. Maybe when I engage you privately, we can dimension that properly. And also, you said that in recommendation 19, that the eligibility of the Amotekun commander, I think I've answered that. I've spoken about that. Then insurance also was mentioned, and Honorable Akonde has helped to clarify that. We should also avoid the use of the word Southwest. Okay, thank you very much, Honorable Majority Leader. We take the hints that you have given us.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think some things have been left out in the bill, and there's need to make some other corrections. The title, from the long title to short title, I think the word Amotekun should not be seen on the title, because we are amending a law because something happens suddenly. So when we had, if we had Amotekun, and in the future something comes up again, we now have neighborhood safety called Amotekun, and that's something. So that is why I suggested at the parliamentary meeting that we should follow same with the Lagos State Transportation Law and that of environment. So it will reflect in the body of the of the law and not necessarily to come up with that title. So it can come with security or any other security just to add to it instead of carrying the name Amotekun at the title, which you can still look at the when you are compiling your final copy of the third reading. Then the commissioner should come. The commissioner for so shall have power to make regulation. So that alone allows the commissioner to come up with regulation, all sorts of regulations. So it is for the House to now approve the regulation when it comes before the House. But defining what the commissioner will do, I think we reduce the powers of that board that we are trying to create. We should just have something. The commissioner shall have power to make regulation under the Lagos State regulation approval law. Also, the recruitment, the word indigene and resident is, I don't think, it's also suggestive on its own, because that has shown that you have categorized the group of people that will be employed. You should just leave the employment pattern in the normal way, so that at the point to start recruitment, those who are in charge will apply their own discretion to employ who and who that are qualified. You know, though I share your sentiment, I mean, coming from Ibadan, what people said and what we agreed upon, but that should be left to that body to decide. Okay, unlike Ekiti or Undo, here we have, you know, people who either through marriage and other things have, you know, means together, but we have to consider, in gathering intelligence, you need people, you know, from each community that can do that job. So if you are talking about Hausa community and you bring somebody who does not speak Hausa or who does not understand the culture of Hausas to gather intelligence, it won't work. Likewise, the Igbo people and also, but we should not stay that in the power of the structure. I think Honorable Abiru mentioned that the structure should be left with the, yeah, you've answered the border stuff. The border is going to be part of the function of the body. It's not necessary to be stated in this, but it will be under function, objective of that, because the Amotekun will also come up with its own purpose and in the bill. But the man in charge of neighborhood safety corps has agreed will be superior to the person to head Amotekun. So the Amotekun will be answerable, just like we have in the police force. You have the IG, you have the other subordinates, you have the SARS, you have these. So in such manner, it will be drafted and it will be answerable. So there is no reason or room for competition between the head of the neighborhood safety corps and that of Amotekun. So they will share the same body as in board, the same head, the same secretary, and also, since we agreed that it's going to be a department or a unit under neighborhood safety. So I hope the chairman and his team will be able to put this into consideration when they are coming up with their final third reading. Honorable Braimoh.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. We take your kind advice. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. What next? Honorable Naim.
Adoption, sir. Can I go ahead, sir? Adoption, sir.
Yes.
Okay, sir. I hereby move that the report, as amended, be adopted as a resolution of the House.
Thank you. Honorable Asumu.
I second the motion as moved.
All in favor, say ayes. All in favor, say ayes. Those against, nay. The ayes have it. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the House reverts to plenary. I so move.
Honorable Akonde.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I second the motion as moved.
All in favor, say ayes. Those against, nay. The ayes have it. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, at the Committee of the Whole, the House took the presentation of a report on the bill for a law to amend Lagos State Neighborhood Safety Corps Agency Law 2019, presented by the Chairman, House Committee on Information, Strategy and Security, Honorable Babatunde Braimoh. After the presentation, members made their various observations, and that was responded to effectively by the chairman. Subsequently, there were amendments to the report of the committee, and which amended report was subsequently adopted as a resolution of the whole House. Mr. Speaker, I wish to say that that is what transpired at the Committee of the Whole. Thank you, sir.
Honorable Masumala.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to affirm that that was what transpired at the Committee of Whole.
Honorable Akwande.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I second the affirmation.
All in favor say ayes. Those against no, the ayes have it. Majority Leader.
With the approval of the Right Honorable Speaker, I wish to move that this House adjourns till Tuesday, the 3rd day of March at 10 o'clock. I so move.
Honorable Naim.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to second the motion as moved.
All in favor say ayes. Those against no, the ayes have it. This House stands adjourned till Tuesday, 3rd March 2020 at 2 p.m. I rise.